Hi, my name is Brian and I run a website called ActiveMelody.com, which is a community site for guitar players, people that are interested in learning how to interact with each other and jam and improvise on the guitar. And that's the one common thread that we all have. And so one question that comes up a lot is the question about practice. How do I practice? How often do I practice? What tools should I use when I practice? And so I've touched on this in other videos, but I thought I would create a video devoted to apps. Apps that I use on my smartphone that have helped me become a better guitar player. So we're going to take a look at 8 apps that I've used and I use all the time, and these will hopefully resonate with some of you out there. And by the way, if I don't cover an app that you use, feel free to leave that in the comments below. Okay, so the first app is one that we all have. It doesn't matter what operating system we're on, whether you're on Android or an iPhone, and that's the Timer app that comes built into your phone. And you might think, why would you use the Timer app? You'd be surprised at how much more efficient you can be when you're using the Timer app. So what I like to do is set 15-minute increments to do certain things, like maybe it's a little finger drill that I'm working on to try and get synchronization down between the two hands, or maybe it's a scale, or maybe I'm just improvising. But if I found that if I don't put the timer on, what happens is I tend to go over and I start going into other things, and I go into a whole other area, which is just jamming and noodling around, which is fine too, but there's a difference between noodling and practice. And so practice isn't nearly as fun. It's much more work and it's more rigid. And so if you're wanting to get serious about one thing that you're working on, try using the Timer app. Okay, so the next one is one that's kind of obvious, but it's the Tuner app. There's lots of them out there. You got to obviously have your guitar in tune. And so there's free ones, there's paid ones, and they're just sort of all over the place. But one that I use all the time is one called iStroboSoft. It's made by Peterson. It's a company that's been around for 70 years. And you know, they're sort of the gold standard in terms of tuning. Now that's an expensive app. I'm not gonna, sugarcoat it. It's about a $20 app, or at least it was when I bought it. I don't know if it's cheaper than that now, but so that's probably the most expensive app that I'm going to mention, but it is a really good app for those of you that are looking for a good, accurate tuning app. Now that doesn't mean you have to go out and buy that app. And by the way, I'm not endorsed by any of these apps that I'm mentioning. These are just ones that I've used. But that's one that I like. There's another one that I have downloaded and I like a lot, and it's $3. It's called GuiTune, G-U-I-T-U-N-E. So you can search for that. I'll put the icon up on the screen. But the reason I like that app is it allows you to isolate strings. So if you're in a noisy environment and you're trying to get your D string in tune, for example, you can choose just that string and it's going to listen only for the D note. So it just makes it a little more accurate in a noisy environment. Okay, so the next app is one that I can't live without. It's the one that I probably use more than any of them, and that's the Voice Memos app. Now I'm talking about the iOS, which is the iPhone. So if you're on an Android phone, you've got some kind of version of that. It's your voice recording app. It's the one that usually comes built in. And if your tablet or smartphone doesn't have one, you can always find one in whatever your app store is. But the voice recording app, or the Voice Memos app, that's what it's called on iPhone, is the best in terms of just think of it like a sketch pad for an artist. You got to have a sketch pad to jot down ideas and just to do little doodles and things. That's what it is for me. So if I'm sitting around, playing, on the couch or sitting outside on the lawn chair or whatever, I've always got my phone somewhere nearby. And if I've got something that jumps out that I think is kind of interesting, I'll record it. And then I'll go back and listen to it later. So it's great for that. So for those of you that are trying to improvise and trying to songwrite, it's perfect for that. You could use it for lyrics and other things as well. But it's also good for those of you that are just practicing and trying to get better at something. So take a song that you're working on right now and just record it. And you can label it, you can put it in a folder, you can organize it however you want, but go back and listen to it in a few months. And that's the advantage, is it gives you a form of measurement. So you have a control. You can go back and listen to that and see where you're at and actually hear the growth. And when you do hear the growth, that's when you get more motivated, to push yourself even harder. All right, so the next app that's a must-have for practicing is a Metronome app. So if you go in the App Store and just type in Metronome, you're going to find lots and lots of different versions of them. The one that I use and I find to be the best, I think it's a $3 app, is called Tempo, T-E-M-P-O. And if you search for that, you're going to see lots of different things. So make sure you scroll down until you see the one with the icon, like the one that matches the one on the screen here. But I really like that app because it allows you to create a playlist. So if you've got 5 different things that you're working on in different tempos, different time signatures or whatever, you can set that up in a playlist and you can go through it. And you can actually set up your practice schedule within that Metronome app. So check out Tempo if you haven't. All right, so the next app is some kind of a guitar chord app. In fact, if you're doing a search for what this would be, you just search for guitar chord, because there's lots of libraries of guitar chords and there's different apps that show you how to play different voicings. And so there's lots of them out there. And the one that I use all the time is one called Guitar ToolKit. And that's one I downloaded way back when the App Store first came out, I think in like 2008. And I've had it on my phone and I've used it ever since. So Guitar ToolKit comes with a lot of things. There's a tuner, which isn't very good. And then there's a metronome, which is okay. But the big thing is what they do with chords. So you're able to look up chords. So if I want to know how to play a D minor 7 and look at the different chord voicings, I can do a search for that and then find the different voicings for it. And the next app that you need to have is some kind of a reverse chord finder. That's one that you might not have thought about, but I know that there's been situations where you're playing a chord, you strum around and you strum a chord and you think, wow, what is that chord? You have no way to know what it is. I mean, you know, if you know chord theory, you can work it out, but a lot of us don't know that. And so a reverse chord finder is a really easy way to do that. And so the one that I use is actually the one that's built into that Guitar ToolKit that I was just talking about. It's got an excellent reverse chord finder. So it allows me to touch the notes on the screen and then it builds the chord and tells me some options for what type of chord it is. Okay, so the next app that you've got to have is some kind of a streaming audio service. And I'm talking about either like Spotify or Apple Music, one of those streaming services. Now, you don't have to pay for the premium if you don't want to do that, but you have to have some way of discovering new music. And I love Spotify. That's always been my favorite. And I've been using Spotify ever since it came out for many, many years. And it's got the best algorithm, in my opinion, in terms of knowing what I like. So I'm always liking songs or disliking songs, telling it what I like. And it's built this algorithm and it gives me a playlist every Monday. It's called Discover Weekly. And I look forward to that every week because I learn new things, or I hear new things, I should say. So I'm always exposed to new music. And it's just a great discovery app. Apple Music has their version of that. But you should really be listening to music and putting together your own playlist. So you can use those playlist features in those streaming services as practice tools. You could do a playlist on songs in the key of E, for example, or shuffle tunes or something like that, songs that I would like to learn. And you create a playlist and then you've got this catalog. It's like a mixtape back in the day, but you've got this catalog of stuff to work on. All right, so all of that leads me to the last app, which is one of the coolest ones, and one that if you haven't heard of, it's going to totally blow your mind. It's called the Amazing Slow Downer. Really terrible name, actually. And you'll see a little acronym, which is ASD. And that is the coolest app. It's kind of a cheesy design, but the app itself is amazing. It really lives up to its name. And so what it allows you to do is to take either of those streaming services we just talked about, Apple Music or Spotify, and you can pull songs into this Amazing Slow Downer app, and you can either slow them down while they keep the right tempo, so you can slow it down to whatever you want. You can loop a section, so you can set a start point and an end point, and it'll loop it over and over again. So if you're trying to learn a lick, it's amazing for that. And you can transpose a song into any key. These are just some of the things it'll do, but those are the 3 big ones. So you can, if you're listening to Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan, you're trying to learn how to play it, and you want to learn how to play it in the key of A, no problem. You can just transpose it right there. You're not trying to download an MP3 file or anything like that. You're literally just finding the song in your Spotify or your Apple Music playlist, and then you can manipulate it from there. So check out the Amazing Slow Downer. Now, there is a cost for that. I think that one's $15, but I'm telling you, if you're trying to, build your ear up and you're trying to just jam along with other songs and trying to learn how to play them, slow them down or whatever, there's not a better app for that, and it's really invaluable. And when we talk about price points, like $3 for this app or $10 for this app. All told, it's like a very small amount of money if you think about it. If you think about what we spend on pedals or amps or strings or guitars themselves, you know, when you're looking at the amount of money that goes into these apps, it's really not that much, and to me it's reasonable. All right, so leave a comment below if you've got an app that you'd like to share with us, one that's helped you practice or become a better guitar player or just become more efficient. It's always exciting to hear from you guys. All right, we'll see you in the next video.